We are joined right now via Skype by Dr. Michael Dorsey, and he is the director of the Institute of Behavioral Studies at Endicott College. Dr. Dorsey, are you there?
I am.
Okay, so look at you there. So great to have you here this morning. We've been talking a little bit about you, but I'd like to hear from you. What exactly is it that you do at Endicott College?
I am a professor of education. I teach courses in special education and applied behavior analysis through the Institute for Behavioral Studies, and work with a team of just wonderful faculty members who've helped to develop this into the program it is today.
For parents at home who are watching us, you know, when we're on this journey, sometimes we feel like we're terribly alone on this journey. Like there's nobody else in the world who's working on autism. But I've been learning over the last couple of years that nothing could be further from the truth. And you and I were both just at a conference where there were seemingly thousands of people who were professionals working in the field of ABA, a lot of them working with children on the autism spectrum, some of them not. But I'm always amazed, and I think our viewers would be amazed, to find out how many people are studying autism and studying ABA. So tell us a little bit about what you experience at Endicott College and the wide range of things that you guys teach people there.
Well, let me start off by just saying the Association for Behavior Analysis International is the conference that you're referring to. Mm-hmm. And the one we were at was in Seattle, Washington. Mm-hmm. And it's the annual meeting of ABAI. They have a number of other conferences that are run on an annual basis and some more sporadically over the course of time. But that particular conference on average draws somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 people from around the world. ABAI has affiliate chapters, I believe, in 20 to 30 different countries around the world. And all of those affiliate chapters in ABAI as a whole have about 18,000 members. Here in Massachusetts, we have the Massachusetts Association for Behavior Analysis. We have about, well, close to 1,000 board-certified behavior analysts practicing in Massachusetts. And we are as far as numbers, the third largest in the country behind Florida and California. But if you look at geography or population density, we actually have the most BCBAs in the country.
So hard to feel alone when we're talking about that many people.
Well, when you're in Massachusetts, it's hard to feel alone because there's a lot of people around. And that doesn't even account for the fairly large number of people who are absolutely qualified, well-trained, have great experience working in behavior analysis and with kids on the spectrum who are not BCBAs.
Yes.
You know, we probably figured that there's got to be another 200 or 300 people that would meet that category here in Massachusetts. So yeah, it's hard to feel alone here. In other states, there's not nearly as many. But they're all over the country.
But you're helping to train people so that there will be more all over the country and all over the world, correct?
We are. We've got about 250 graduate students in our program here at Endicott College in a variety of different training options.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those different training options?
Sure. Basically, we have two kinds of programs that we run through the Institute. The first group are what you would call degree-granting programs. Mm-hmm. At the master's level, we have courses that basically run from paraprofessional through master's level. At the master's level, they break down into special education licensing programs with a BCBA. Which is very unusual. We're one of the only programs in the country. I know Ohio State does it, but we're one of the only ones that certainly locally in New England that does it. And someone can come here and get a special ed license, either at the moderate or severe level, and their BCBA all in one degree. We also have a SPED master's program without a license. So if you want to be like an administrator in a private program for kids on the spectrum, but don't want to be licensed as a teacher, you can go through that program and end up getting your master's in special education with a BCBA. And then most recently, Mary Jane Weiss, who joined us about a year ago, started a master's degree in autism and behavior analysis, where it's not a licensing program, but it focuses specifically on issues related to the autism spectrum and treating kids on the spectrum. And you get that master's and your BCBA. Or when I say you get your BCBA, let me qualify that by saying you meet the requirements, the educational requirements to sit for the BCBA exam.
Right.
On top of that, as far as degree granting programs, we will be launching this fall, and it's been completely approved by all the various entities that need to do it. We have an undergraduate concentration, which is sort of like a minor in autism and applied behavior analysis. So we'll have juniors and seniors at the undergraduate level taking courses in applied behavior analysis, doing an intensive practicum at at Futures Behavior Therapy here in Beverly, and coming away meeting the qualifications to sit for the BCABA exam. And then beyond that, we have a number of certification or certificate programs. We have for people who already have a master's and want to get their BCBA, we have the 5-course sequence that they can take. We have a SPED license program, moderate and severe, just like the one I talked about before. We have our Coba Tech program, which you and I have talked about in the past, which is the certificate program for paraprofessionals and teachers' aides.
Yeah, let's take a minute to talk about Coba Tech too, because I think you know me a little bit, and I'm a big advocate for making sure that anyone who comes in contact with a child on the spectrum, or really any child, should have behavioral information and have those tools in their tool belt to be able to help all children, because it's not just children on the spectrum that need behavioral support. And I see that there's a big gap sometimes in what a district thinks that they need, but everybody needs to have training. And you have this really ingenious Coba Tech program. Tell us a little bit about what it is.
We do. Let me just mention real quickly, though,
sure.
that one other certificate or certification that I don't want to miss before we go to Coba Tech is Mary Jane Weiss has, for people who have a master's degree and a BCBA, can come back and get a certification in autism. Which I think is pretty unusual. We're one of only a few programs in the country that does that. So it focuses on things like social skills and language, and there's actually a course, and I call it How to Play Nice in the Sandbox. It's how to work with other professional disciplines and how to be part of a really well-functioning IEP team.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great program. It really is. Mary Jane's done a great job with us. And Tom Zane, who joined us from Sage College, has worked like crazy over the last 2 years and has gotten basically all of this online. So you can get certificates, certifications, and full master's degrees in all of these various programs, thanks to Tom, online and face-to-face, in sort of a combination, a blended model, if you will.
Wonderful.
But let me tell you about Coba Tech. Coba Tech is something we're really proud of. It is a program that we designed. It's based on what's called a PSI, Personalized System of Instruction, teaching protocol that basically means it's self-paced. What we did was we looked at what the skills are that someone needs to be able to function as a paraprofessional or teacher's aide in a classroom, or for parents who've got kids that are living at home and they're working with a behavior person, they're working with a BCBA, but they really just don't understand exactly how to carry out all these various kinds of protocols and training programs and stuff. So we've had a lot of parents coming to us and taking this program. What we did was we went through a very long process of surveying people in the field and reaching out to them and getting them to tell us what are the basic skills that are necessary to be an effective, frontline person that is the person sitting there working with the kid on the floor. What are the skills they need? This is not a program that teaches you to understand the sort of underpinnings that go along with it. This is a skills-based program,
right.
And that's what's very important. So we basically took all of that information and we divided those skills into 5 different learning sets, and then each learning set has modules within it. There are 28 different modules across 5 different sets. And basically what you do is you start with module 1 in learning set 1, and you do that one. You can watch an online lecture. You have some reading material to do. You take a written quiz that's online. Once you pass that quiz with 100% accuracy, and you can keep retaking it, going to a proctor, working with them just like you and I are dealing here on Skype. You can talk to that proctor to try to get to understand better what it is you're missing on the exam, what you don't understand. But then, and this is where I think our program is really different than most, is then you have to demonstrate that skill with a peer, not with a kid, but with a peer. You have to demonstrate it. We do procedural reliability checks to make sure that you're doing it correctly in the way you were trained. You send us a video recording, or we watch you live on Skype. We give you feedback. Once you pass that, then you have to demonstrate the skill with a child, with someone that you're working with. Maybe you're working with adults with autism. Whoever it is the group that you're providing services to. You have to demonstrate that skill with that population. Again, we do procedural reliability checks. We make sure that you're doing it correctly. We give you feedback on it. You may have to repeat it once, twice, 3 times, but eventually you're going to master that skill. Once you do that, then you've finished one of those 28 modules.
Wow.
You can go through this training as quickly as you want, or as slow as you want to pace it. That's why it's called the self-paced program. So you can kind of work your way through it. For people that are working full-time and have a home life and family, maybe they can only do it over maybe a 12-month period. For other people, they may finish it much more quickly.
Okay, and so it sounds absolutely wonderful. And if a parent is interested in finding out more information about it because they have an aide that they want to make sure is trained properly, where would they need to go to find that information?
There is Endicott College has a website, just like everyone else. If you go on Endicott's website, you can go to the Institute for Behavioral Studies. There is information about it. There's all the details about what it is and how it works. And the contact people, Emily White is the person who is the director of the Coba Tech program. You can contact Emily, you can contact me, or Dr. Malcolm Patterson, who is our dean that oversees the Institute for Behavioral Studies. So any one of the 3 of us will be more than happy to talk to people.
And when a person finishes, they get a certificate saying that they have completed the program.
They do.
And I would imagine that would be useful for them in gaining jobs or promotions or keeping their job in this economy. To be certified in something like that would demonstrate a level of expertise that would be desirable.
We're finding that that's true. We're actually finding that some school districts are giving aides raises, merit raises based on completing this program. It's a transportable certificate. Just because you work for one school district when you get it doesn't mean that if you go to another school district you lose it. This is something that the individual becomes certified and they can take it with them where they will. Interestingly enough, and I know you and I spend a lot of time talking about Bureau of Special Ed Appeals, but a lot of parents are going to the Bureau of Special Ed Appeals in their hearings and asking that not only do they want a one-to-one aide for their child, but they want a Coba Tech certified one-to-one aide.
Absolutely, because you know it's not enough to just have an aide, right? You got to have an aide who knows what they're doing at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I mentioned before you joined us that you are an expert in placement. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, but when we come back, Dr. Dorsey, I want to talk to you a little bit about placement and how you determine what is appropriate placement, and maybe get some advice for parents about things that they should know about what's going on in school and what is appropriate placement for their children. Are you up for that?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Okay, great. Let's take a short break and we'll be back with Dr. Dorsey in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and our special guest on this Monday morning is Dr. Mike Dorsey. He is the director of the Institute for Behavioral Studies at Endicott College. Did I get that right, Dr. Dorsey?
Yes, you did, Shannon.
Okay, and we were mentioning before the break that you are an expert in educational placement. So my understanding is that you get called in from time to time to look at a situation and even to testify when people have gone to due process about what is the appropriate placement. Sometimes you're there for the school and sometimes you're there for the parent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And tell us a little bit about how, when you go into a school, what are you looking for that informs your decision about what appropriate placement is?
Well, first of all, just a slight correction.
Okay.
What I'm really looking at is more about the services that are being provided and not the placement per se.
Okay.
In my opinion, public school systems can, if they choose to provide appropriate services, can serve probably 95 to 97% of all the kids on the autism spectrum that I've ever seen in Massachusetts. Very often they choose not to provide the services necessary. Very recently, I just gave a talk to the Massachusetts Elementary School Principals Association and basically explained to them how they could provide appropriate services to the kids on the spectrum and save an awful lot of money by avoiding having to put them in out-of-district placements in order to get appropriate services. There is that small percentage of children whose self-injury or aggressive behavior is so severe that they really do need a private placement. But very often, public schools, if they choose to provide the right services, can do it right there in the public school. So what I'm really looking at is the services that are being provided, the number of hours a day, the number of days a week, the qualifications of the staff, the type of educational services that are being provided, whether there's, for example, a lot of downtime in the school day, whether the child is being actively engaged in educational activities 6 hours a day, 5 days a week.
And that's a lot to look at. But when you're looking at that, I know we've talked about this before, you kind of have what I refer to as a secret weapon, that something that you ask for when you go into the classroom that was really eye-opening to me and I think tells a lot about what's happening at the school. So tell us, and it's me that's saying it's your secret weapon. I don't think it's so much of a weapon, but it's like a litmus test. What do you ask the schools for?
Well, like I said, these children are in school for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I want to make sure that every minute of that day is being used to the benefit of that child. So one of the things that I always ask for is a schedule. I want to know what the child's doing, breaking it down in the day down into 15-minute, maybe 30-minute blocks every day of the week, and I want to know within each one of those 15 to 30-minute blocks what the activity is that the child's involved in, whether it's circle time or centers time, or it's an older child and they're in a reading group or whatever. But I also want to know what IEP goal or objective is being addressed in that particular activity, and I want to know what teaching technique is being used, whether it's discrete trial or whether it's some other kind of behavior analytic experimentally validated procedure that the teacher is using.
And I got to tell you, as a former teacher, I think this is brilliant because, just the school's response to this, and I'm sure you've had many different responses, is going to give you a whole bunch of information. But give us an example. If you ask a school for that, what can you glean from that?
Well, for example, you go into a classroom and you see this 3-year-old child who is cognitively impaired and pretty severely autistic, and they've got them in circle time in the morning with 6 or 8 other children. Some of them have aides sitting behind them, some don't. The teacher's in front of this entire group, and the teacher's going around one child at a time and asking them questions, what the day of the week is, what the month is, how many days are left in the school year. That always seems to be a big thing. What the weather is outside. It's rainy here today, so they'd have to go up and put a little thing. Well, one of the things I do is I watch and I take some data on how often that child that I'm there to see has an opportunity to respond in that circle time. And what is it that the teacher, what goal and objective that the parents have agreed to with the school district and written into the IEP, what goal and objective is being worked on in that circle time? Because it's a very low demand. They're probably, with 6 or 8 other kids in the circle, they're probably only getting an opportunity to respond maybe every 3 to 5 minutes, which is, the child is sitting there, and if they've got any kind of probability of behavioral issues, that's going to be a real high probability time to start acting out because they have nothing else to do. They're not getting a lot of reinforcement. They're not getting asked questions. They're not getting a lot of attention, yet there they sit. So they're starting to hit the kid next to them or fidget and jump up and down and run around. It's not necessarily a good situation.
Right.
And it's not a time for social interaction. You want the child to sit there and be quiet and listen to what's going on. So you don't want to be prompting social interaction. So what else are you going to do?
Yeah, it's certainly not a recipe for success in that circumstance.
No, it's not.
For that child. But I imagine that there are some schools, when you ask for this document, this schedule that separates the day and has matching goals with each one of the activities, that there are some schools that are able to give you that schedule same day. And that then you can go in and observe and see that what's on the paper is actually what's happening.
Absolutely. So there are some very, very good public schools here in Massachusetts that provide really high quality educational services to kids on the spectrum, and they do a great job. And if I ask them for something like this, even if they don't have it on hand, they haven't actually put it together the way I'm asking, they can put it together in a matter of minutes, and they have no problem giving it to me.
Right, because the thought is there. And I think for a parent, that's got to be the ultimate goal. You work and work and work and fight and fight and fight to get the IEP a certain way, and then a lot of times the disappointment is that the stuff that's in the IEP is not actually showing up in the classroom. So I think this is a brilliant, brilliant test to, first of all, see, do they have it written down? Is the plan written down? And then to see, is it being implemented? So I gotta love that. I also imagine that when you ask for this of some schools, that there's a lot of hemming and hawing because not only does the document not exist, the plan doesn't exist. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. And in fact, the majority of the school districts that I ask for this, they're very hesitant to try to put it together. They've really never given it that thought. And then the other part that's got to go along with this is within each of those different blocks, I want to see the educational protocol that the teacher's following. What are the written instructions that they should be following? So if it's a time, say it's a centers-based time, when kids move from one center to the next, and one of the things you're supposed to be doing is working on social skills. Well, is there a protocol for teaching that child how to interact socially with his peers? What are the steps that are involved? What step is the child on now? What's the reinforcement procedure? What's the error correction procedure? How exactly is that being done so that if different people within the classroom receive that child in a different center as the child goes through the morning, making sure that everybody is responding to that child in exactly the same way. And more often than not, when I ask for copies of educational protocols that go along with all the goals and objectives, they can't provide me those either.
And I have to be honest, I think that if a teacher had that, if somebody were to give the teacher the educational protocol, most of the teachers that I know would be overjoyed and elated.
And then tagged onto that is the data collection system.
Yeah.
First it's the schedule, then it's the educational protocol, maybe a behavior support plan if there's some challenging behavior, and then a data collection system that goes along with it. When you've got all of that in line and I walk into that classroom, I pick up the phone, I call the parents, and I say, you know what, you're in a good school.
Yeah, what a wonderful thing. So for parents, and I really want to look at it from the parents' point of view right now, what kinds of mistakes do parents make that you could give them some advice of how they can get to that? What should they be doing to make that more possible?
Well, first of all, is working in a cooperative way as best they can with the school district, and not going into it with an antagonistic sort of an attitude, not demanding an independent educational evaluation before their child's ever had their first day in class. But trying to work with the school district, seeing what the school district's got to offer, what opportunities there are, what kinds of people that are working in that school district, and then trying to be part of a functional team. I think that's the best place to start.
Yeah, I can just feel, though, parents everywhere sighing because they're wanting to know where to find the school that has all those things in place that you were talking about. And of course, the vast majority don't have those things in place. But even I, as a parent, want to know, how can I help my school to get that in place?
I think it's an educational process for the school itself. I mean, you really need to bring to the leadership in the school district evidence that ABA is in fact the type of educational approach for kids on the spectrum that is the most widely recognized, the most supported. I mean, everybody from the Surgeon General to the National Science Foundation, and the list goes on and on and on. Say that ABA is what you should be using with these children. And if you need to go and you need to educate the SPED director or the superintendent or even the school board, I mean, if you really look at it carefully, this is a cost-benefit analysis that school districts need to do. And if they look at it objectively, they can actually provide appropriate services and save money at the same time.
Well, you know what I'm going to do, Dr. Dorsey, is I'm going to, when this interview is up on YouTube tomorrow, I'm going to send this interview to my school district. And I'm going to advocate that everyone else does that as well, because I think you just said it really succinctly, and I couldn't hope to say it as succinctly as you just did. So thank you for that. One more question, because I know we have to let you go. As someone who is educating this next generation of autism experts, what can you tell our parents and teachers who are watching that leaves us with some hope? What are these people like?
The number of people that are going into this field is increasing exponentially. It is growing like crazy. Applied behavior analysis is being recognized all over the world. I leave on Friday we run a program in Spain. I'll be teaching over there for the first 2 weeks in June. My counterpart, Tom Zane, is coming over for the last 2 weeks in June. I've taught in the country of Jordan. There are ABA programs all over the United States and all over the world. And the vast majority of them are focusing on teaching people to be absolutely qualified instructors for individuals that have been diagnosed on the autism spectrum.
Well, I've said from the minute I saw that this was working with my son, I said, oh my goodness, we need an army. We need an army to go around the world and make it possible for every child in the world to have access to this kind of therapy. And you're training the army. So thank you so much for all that you're doing, because we really appreciate it.
Shannon, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And have a wonderful time in Spain.
I hope to.
And I hope that we can catch up with you sometime after you get back.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling.
And thank you to everyone at Endicott College. We'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.